Welcome to Real Estate Coaching Radio, starring award-winning real estate coaches and #1 international best-selling authors, Tim and Julie Harris. This is the #1 daily radio show for realtors looking for a no BS, authentic, real-time coaching experience. What's really working in today's market, how to generate more leads, make more money, and have more time for what you love in your life. And now your hosts, Tim and Julie Harris.
3, 2, 1, and we are back. It is August the 19th. We are in Laguna Beach, California, where we were yesterday, and we are enjoying this amazing view from the Laguna Beach surf and sand of the Pacific Ocean. I got up extra early this morning so I could videotape a lot of the surfers. I actually was videotaping the ocean as the surfers were hitting the ocean, and there were probably 25 or 30 out there right outside of our window. And it was inspirational at the very least. But I have to say, surfing for the most part seems like what you do is you float out into the ocean with your surfboard, hang out with a bunch of other guys until you basically decided it's time to go to work. I mean, there wasn't a lot of surfing going on is what I'm saying. But they were optimistic. They were hopeful. And actually, I thought it was fascinating because really at the end of the day, surfers are nothing other than proactive lead generators, right? They're out there prospecting, though, in my opinion, they're doing a little bit too much waiting around for the wave to show up versus the other guy that we told you about yesterday, and he was out there again today, and he was on one of these automated aerofoils. So, again, 25 or 30 surfers right outside of our back window here on the Pacific Ocean, all waiting around for the wave to arrive, and the guy in the aerofoil was off to our right, and he was just cruising around having a good old time, you know, riding on the ocean, getting his waves in and whatnot. And while those guys were still sitting there waiting for the waves to come in, he basically had his fun and, you know, basically went back in and went on with his day. And actually sort of reminded me, what reminded me to tell you guys this story is, I posted a video of that on Instagram. But I was on the phone this morning with a guy with the first name of David, and I know he's a podcast listener, so I won't mention his last name because I didn't ask his permission. But he told me a funny story that was exactly like what I just described to you. Just it was a real estate story. So here it goes. He said last April, as in this April, he was going to all of his centers of influence and past clients, dropping off forget-me-not seeds to his centers of influence and past clients while he was listening to our podcast. And he had the epiphany as he was knocking on door after door, giving back forget-me-not seeds, how ridiculous it is what he was doing. Because he said two things. First of all, these people are all naturally going to think that I'm only trying to socialize with them and befriend them for the sake of business. And he felt that was, essentially not genuine. And number two, he thought, well, how much time am I wasting giving away forget-me-not seeds, hoping and praying that one of these people turn into a lead? And it's just like the surfers out there waiting for the right wave. And that's when he had the epiphany, and this is his story, not mine, listening to our podcast. And we were talking about that very subject of the insanity of waiting around for your business and being a passive lead generator, which centers of influence and past client ninja type selling agents are. They're just waiting around for the business to come to them versus what we prescribe to all of you guys, which is being proactive lead generators. And so it's just sort of funny to see all these thoughts come together on one quick experience.
Yeah, what we teach is more of the Navy SEAL approach, I think, where you identify what your target is, right? You have a strategy, you follow a system, and you get predictable results.
Yeah, you go in and you basically are, forward deployed. You're situationally aware. And that's the reason that Julie and I read a lot of Navy SEAL books, because their adaptation to the environment to accomplish the goal is really what it takes to be successful long-term in life and in business. And nothing is, and if you can only master one skill in real estate, those of you guys who are longtime listeners to our show, you know what I'm about to say. It's the art and science of being a listing agent. That is the most important skill set you should be developing right now. Oh, something else that David said. He said he's also, had previously sold insurance, and now that he was in real estate, he was confused about all the marketing and the branding and the lead buying, the same things we basically try to warn you guys against over-investing in, especially when you're in your formidable years in real estate, but really every year after that as well. And he said by listening to this podcast, he's finally had clarity. He that's the thing about the approach Julie and I take. It's practical and tactical, and it will essentially eliminate things that you shouldn't be doing in the first place. And so back to the little sub point I had, if there's only one thing you can get good at in real estate, or if you can only choose one skill to master, it's becoming a listing agent. And specifically, What does that mean? Learning how to be a proactive lead generator, a pre-qualifier, presenter, and a negotiator. If you can get good at those skills, you can be, essentially terrible or not very good at the very least at everything else that you think is important in real estate, because everything else that you think is important in real estate, you can hire somebody else to do. But you have to learn how to master being a proactive lead generator, a pre-qualifier, presenter, and then a negotiator. But even in this market, and Julie's going to say lead follow-up too is important, and that's true, but I'll throw that in the same bucket as being a proactive lead generator. But negotiating, even in a market like this, for the most part, it's taking the highest offer. If you're on a listing agent, negotiating is no problem whatsoever. So, yeah, that was a sort of cacophony, and that's Zoe sneezing in the background. It was a cacophony of interesting experiences I was looking forward to sharing with all of you on the podcast. So, Julie, what is the topic that we're going over with these guys?
We're talking about, as promised, our new series, the 7-step listing process. And, I had a call with a newer coaching member this morning.
Anna.
Yes. And she said, I feel like I'm all over the place. And she said that, probably 5 or 6 times in a 15-minute conversation.
Well, let's just preface this. Yeah. David is new to us.
Yep.
And Anna is new to us.
Yes.
And I feel like I'm all over the place is a common thing that we hear from people, especially this time of year,
yes,
because of the fact that they are being misdirected in so many different ways, and they're looking for clarity of purpose and because they are tired of feeling frustrated. They're tired of feeling confused. They're tired of feeling skeptical,
yes,
and they want an assured path that'll get them to the accomplishment of their goals as fast as they can. And a lot of people, the best coaching clients, like I'm sure these two will become, are in that unconscious or on that conscious incompetence phase,
yes,
where they finally have gotten tired and sick of getting kicked in the head.
That's right.
And they're ready to actually learn and take action.
They're aware that they need to make some improvements. Now, to Anna's credit, she said that she does know how to do a lot of parts of the business, a lot of things having to do with listings, but her thing is getting the listing. It's kind of like the pre-listing process that she's working on. She didn't have a pre-listing package. We're working on that. So, people are in different stages, right? Maybe you do know how to negotiate, but you don't know how to generate in the first place. Maybe you know how to generate, but your lead follow-up is terrible. So we touch on all of this with our 7-step listing process. The idea being here, guys, that you do it the same way every single time. It doesn't matter if it was a for sale by owner or your mom's house. You follow the same listing process.
Right. And again, guys, and we're not oversimplifying this. We're just telling you the stone cold honest truth. You're in real estate. You've been in real estate for a long time. You're new in real estate. You're a grizzled veteran in real estate. You haven't quite accomplished the financial goals that you've set out for yourself. You're not on the path that you hoped you'd be on at this point in your career. You got to ask yourself why. And the answer is because you've probably chosen a path that is too complicated, too analytical, too many details, too many moving parts, and ultimately it's not proactive. And that's the reason that you need to pivot towards being a listing agent. And we've made it easy for you guys. And before Julie gets to point 1, write this down. Do it now while you're listening to us on your phone. Text the word success to 47372. Text the word success to 47372. And when you do, we're going to text you back a link. That link's going to give you a download of our updated real estate treasure map, which is your fill-in-the-blank business and life plan. But you're also going to be entitled to a coaching call with one of our new member coaches, and they'll help you get the real estate treasure map completed. So just go ahead and text the word success to 47372. And also, if you'd like to join our coaching program right away, just go over to timandjulieharris.com, click on coaching, click on Premier Coaching, and you can join for around $100 per month. So there you go. And those are your calls to action if you're serious about becoming a listing agent. And guys, this is the perfect time to lock into our coaching program because we're entering into the time of year when a lot of agents are going to stop working. They're going to start around Halloween. You will see this. I realize it's not even September yet, but you just mark my word. Around September, most agents are going to disappear. There are going to be a lot of expireds, a lot of for sale by owners over the next 60 to 90 days. You need to learn how to prospect, proactively lead generate, and then win the listings once you set the appointment. That's what we teach you how to do. Learn how to do that through our Premier Coaching Program. Text the word success to 47372. So, Julie, what's the first point on the 7-step listing process?
So this is our pre-point mindset point to get them all set up for this. So the first thing you've got to do is develop the actual mindset of a listing agent. Listing agents know how to, and this is where you might want to take some notes. What is the mindset of a powerful listing agent? Well, they know how to consistently generate listing leads. This could be your goal list. How to consistently generate listing leads, how to follow up, pre-qualify, present in such a way that they actually take the listing, Negotiate in such a way the listing sells, and close the deal. They are able to do all of that in such a way that the seller sends lots of referrals their way and trusts that agent with their own future business. Listing agents work with more than just repeat and referral clients. This is a huge point to start out with. Some of you guys have been relatively successful and feel like you're a decent listing agent, and you probably are on some level. But ask yourself, how many of your listings have been people who already know you, who are friends, who are maybe repeat clients? Kind of, if we're being honest, kind of the slam dunk transaction where you didn't get that many objections. They really didn't ask you to chip in your commission, and they weren't interviewing anyone else.
And you're basically, you don't know how to compete. You think you're competing, but you're not. And that you're already got that listing because it's your mom, it's your brother-in-law, it's the person you sit next to in church. And what you're going to do in your career, and you'll know this is you if I give you a few more breadcrumbs here, you'll have evolved to a point where you're doing a consistent number of transactions. People consider you successful, but you're stymied. You don't know why you're not doing more transactions. The reason you're not doing more transactions is because you are not being a proactive lead generator, ultimately because you know you can't compete, or you're fearful that if you're competing for a listing with for a listing that's with a seller that you don't have a personal relationship with, that you won't win that listing. That's what we teach you how to do. Yes, of course, Julie and I are huge advocates of centers of influence and past client marketing. There are surfers out there who actually just surfed.
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah, that was amazing.
That was cool.
But at the same time, we're going to also teach you how to win even if you don't have any personal contact with that seller. That's called being a true professional.
That's right. So listing agents with the right mindset and the right skill set work with more than just repeat and referral clients. They're able to successfully help what some of you describe as colder types of leads due to their higher level of skill and confidence. Here's a fact. Many agents do the same volume and number of deals year in and year out. We know because this is usually when you come to coaching, because they are dependent on what comes to them naturally, i.e. the easy business. In order to get to the next level, you must learn to not just work with people you know, but also people you don't know. So there's 7 P's, the listing agent's 7 P's, and then we're going to get to step number 1. Profit comes from previewing, pre-qualifying, preparing the PLP, that's the pre-listing package, and a polished professional presentation. Now, one of the things that Anna said was she admitted that she doesn't do very much proactive lead generation because she doesn't have a pre-listing package, because she's afraid when she does generate something, maybe she won't know how to compete. So guess what her first homework was? Getting that pre-listing package done, listening to the coaching calls, going to the daily coaching calls, and getting her confidence level up.
And yes, guys, the Premier Coaching Program includes a pre-listing pack. It's a template. We can help you get it finished with your personal information. That is a critical element of any successful listing agent.
That's right. So here's a quote, and then we'll do step number 1 from Norman Vincent Peale. He said, quote, "Believe in yourself, have faith in your abilities. Without a humble but reasonable confidence in your own powers, you cannot be successful or happy." So let's talk about getting those powers. Step number 1, and the most important because the rest of the steps won't matter without it, generate the lead. And there's 3 mini points here. First one, remember the spokes in the wheel method of lead generation. There is no one magic silver bullet that will solve all of your lead generation needs. You must implement a minimum of 5 spokes of lead generation, perfecting, purifying, and pursuing until you are the best at each spoke. Make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so next we have, in order to sustain long-term ever-increasing success, you must do what you don't want to do when you don't want to do it at the highest level. This should sound familiar to some of you listeners.
It better be for all of you, because that is really the bottom line. If you're wondering really what the essence of Tim and Julie Harris coaching is, and the Harris coaching method, it is teaching all of you guys to master the art and science of doing what you don't want to do when you don't want to do it at the highest level. That is incredibly critical for your long-term increasing levels of success versus just success spurts that most of you, or if you're even, some of you don't even experience that. But success spurts are normalized in real estate. How about every single month being a fantastic month, every single year being a fantastic year? That comes from doing what you don't want to do when you don't want to do it at the highest level.
That's right. And there's 3 parts to that, right? So the doing what you don't want to do. Well, you're probably never going to just automatically want to pick up the phone, you're just dying to do your lead follow-up. There's never going to be a time when that's like your primary thought.
It's not just picking up the phone they're not going to want to do. They're not going to want to do anything that might result. And this is kind of normal and natural, but subconsciously you're probably doing everything in your power to put yourself in a position where you have to possibly hear the word no, or possibly put in a position where the seller or anyone really is going to ask you a question you don't know the answer to. In other words, you don't want your lack of skills to be exposed. And so as a result of that, you hide behind your screens, you hide behind keyboards. You are attracted to, like a moth to a bright light, anything that is going to be sold to you on the premise that it's passive, that you won't ever have to face down your fear of rejection. That is the essence of why so many of you are attracted to the passive lead generation, because you're loving the lie that you don't actually have to do the real work of real estate.
That's it. So if you struggle with lead generation, remember this is your most important first step. You have to get help with this. It does not have to be feast or famine, real estate roller coaster of income. So commit to ending your cash spurts and get into cash flow. That starts with embracing and getting great at lead generation. So let's go to point number 2, because they know what they need to do to get help with point number 1. Step number 2, follow up with urgency. Now, so many coaching clients come to us saying that they have a lead generation issue. And then when we dig into it, we find out they actually have a lead follow-up issue. Sometimes that's rather obvious when we call them back and say their voicemail's full. There could be leads hiding in there. But step number 2, follow up with urgency. Follow our 18 relentless lead follow-up rules.
Can we take a
starting
half step
with
back?
urgency? Yeah.
They do have a lead generation issue because they're generating leads that are passive leads.
And they might not even, if we really want to define what a lead is.
Right. A lead is in itself, this will seem shocking, especially to those of you who are buying buyer leads, but a lead has no value. A lead is nothing. If you want a bunch of leads, just, essentially get an old school white pages and then just open up and start, there it is, A through Z, all the people that are in your town. That's about the same quality of the leads you're getting when you buy leads from some of the big portals and these other places that you guys are buying leads from. A lead has no value. You've just got to accept that. A lead has no value. It's just a name, an email address, a name, and a phone number, right? A pre-qualified, motivated lead has value. Why waste your time with the leads that have no value, that are not actually motivated to sell? Just focus on the leads that already have their hands in their air and say, yes, I want to sell my house, primarily sell my house. 50% of them, depending on the price point, will also want to buy a house. That's the key. Focus on the sellers first. Why is it that some of you guys are confused about this? Because you've been sucked into the vortex of buying business. The people selling you the leads only generate buyer leads because they don't and they can't generate seller leads. They generate buyer leads. You then get your real estate license. If you've been licensed only since 2007, 2008, you've been awash with all these CRMs and funnels and buying leads from different buyer leads from different sources. Exactly. That all that stuff has its place, but it is not where your focus should be. Your focus should be learning how to be a proactive lead generator. And you guys want the best part, in case you're confused about this? The sources of the business that we ask you to learn how to attract to you do not cost you anything. We are not selling you leads. Julie and I are not in the lead selling business. We are in the agent skills and success business. We are not selling you leads. We are not selling you branding, marketing, or all the rest of it. Again, that stuff may have a place in your business down the road, but primarily be focused on being a proactive lead generator. In markets like this, it's more true now than really ever has been, especially as the market even becomes more of a seller's market.
That's right. So you've got to follow up with urgency. We call it furiously fast lead follow-up. Somebody who leaves you a message should barely have hung up the phone before you call, not text, not email, put them in your drip system, before you call them back. You should have a lot of instances where they go, are you a real person? We're looking at a ginormous wave right now.
Yeah, and those guys both got the wave, too. Those are the first surfers I've seen stand up since we've been here.
Yeah, well, they stayed out longer and they tried harder, I think so.
They did, that's right.
So don't blow off your buyer calls just because you already have too many buyers. Remember that your buyers are many times listing leads in buyer clothing. Remember, every single person that's an open house buyer lead or a sign call, your script is which home in the area do you plan on selling?
Right.
This is another black hole of mistake.
Let's just give them a little conversational outline,
Sure.
right? We don't want to call it script because so many of you guys have some sort of mental block around that. I don't use scripts. Well, so let's soften it up. Let's nerf this up a little bit, and let's call it a conversation outline. Ring, ring. You're going to be the buyer.
Okay.
I'm me.
You're
I'm the
calling
agent,
me back.
right? Yeah.
Okay. Hello.
Hi, this is Tim Harris with ABC Realty. So listen, as a courtesy, when people call our 800 number, and this is if you are using 1-800-HOME-HOTLINE.com listeners, actually we'll do it again. Guys, you should be attaching to all of your listings and all of your media a 1-800 direct response phone number. And just go to 1-800-HOME-HOTLINE.com to get an idea of what I'm talking about. And the essence of it is that people will call the 800 number to get information that's not otherwise available from, say, for example, the sign, or really maybe even the MLS. Added pictures, added descriptions, current pricing, all that good stuff. So the best buyers are, generally speaking, are going to be the ones that are driving the neighborhood, but you guys get the gist of it. So here's the role play. And this takes me back to when Julie and I sold real estate. We converted so many listings off just this simple technique. It would blow your mind. It's the simplest thing ever, but the one thing that's required is you do have to call all your leads back within usually a minute or less. The faster the better. So we're going to start it again. Julie's going to be the buyer, and here's the deal. She just was in front of the listing. We just listed 123 Oak Street for $799,000, and she's sitting in front of Oak Street. She just called off the for sale sign. On the top of the for sale sign, it says for free 24-hour recorded info on this house, please call, and then the unique phone number and the unique extension that corresponds to that listing. So she's in front of that listing. She stopped there. She called the 800 number, and then she's listened to the recording. And so she's called up, and here's what she's heard. Something similar to this. Hi, you've called about 123 Oak Street. It's a lovely 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath home with a fenced-in backyard. It's within 15 minutes of this, that, the other, locations that people are generally going to be interested in. Kitchen has been freshly remodeled. The house is currently priced in the upper 700s. To hear the current price on this house and other homes available in the market that will be coming for sale soon, please press 0. Something along those lines, listeners. And so what then is going to happen is Julie's going to have heard the recording, but when you're using 800-HOME-HOTLINE.com, you will then get texted immediately with the phone number that she called from, including cell phones. So Julie just, called and listened to the recording. She's in her car.
I've got two choices. I can either hit 0, in which case your phone will ring and we'll talk directly, or I'll be like, I don't know, and I'll just hang up. And then you'll get texted my phone number. Even if I have an unlisted number, you're going to get my number immediately.
Right. And
along with what I called about.
And I'm going to call back, okay? So I'm going to get the text. It's going to tell me that, maybe the name, let's just say it's, Julie Harris, just called in 123 Oak Street. And I'm going to call right back. And this is what I'm going to say. Ring, ring.
Hello.
Hi, this is Tim Harris with ABC Realty. So listen, as a courtesy, when people call our 800 number, we'd like to give them a quick call back to see if they have any questions about the home they called about.
Oh, are you a real person?
Yeah, I'm a real person. This is not an AI bot.
Yeah. Gosh, I just called on that. I'm still on that street. I was wondering, you said it was the high 700s. What's the exact price on that?
I appreciate you asking. Let me check to confirm the current list price and make sure there's no pending contracts on it. Hey, by the way, which home in the neighborhood are you thinking about selling?
Oh, well, I've got a townhome in the neighborhood next to it, and I don't know if I'm going to keep it as a rental or sell it. So I'm just getting started.
Okay, so listeners, that is the difference between what Julie and I teach and all of our 13 coaches and our coaching staff. That's the difference between what we do and what everyone else does. So you saw right there from the beginning of that call that we teach you guys to go directly after the seller. And yes, we're using some different scripting things. You heard me drop in the listen and things like that, and affirming what she's saying, and all that stuff we teach you. That comes with skills. But the bottom line is I did not wait around to determine whether she was a seller. I asked the question, which house in the neighborhood are you thinking about selling? Before we then wasted a bunch of time talking about a listing that probably wasn't a fit for her. She wasn't really interested in, most likely.
There for a second. You got information out of me before I got my information out of you. Skillfully and quickly, you determined that I may have a listing to sell. So you're probably going to spend more time on the phone with me, probably going to ask more questions of me, and perhaps end up with an appointment.
Well, the script then, basically, when you read our script, again, conversation outline for those of you who have sensitive ears,
Right.
But the script basically is going to take you down a different path. So as soon as she is self-identified as being a potential seller, then you actually, on the script, it's going to give you a different set of questions resulting in the setting of a listing appointment. If she was just a straight up buyer, that would be a different set of questions because obviously there's no listing, no house she has to sell first. So we do have, that's the point of being a professional, guys. When you're a professional, it's sort of just, it's a conversation that leads to this conversation.
It's a system.
It's a system. That's really Tim and Julie Harris Real Estate Coaching is really a system. And our whole process works the same way. Nothing is left to chance. You don't ever have to think about what you're going to say when you're going to say it. We know from having done this for a bazillion years what the sellers are going to say almost always in the exact sequential order in which they're going to say it. And that's what our whole system is. It's removing chance from your becoming a successful listing agent.
Now, 3 things I want to point out. Number 1 is we just demonstrated how listings generate business.
Right.
Because that was a call on a listing.
That cost you nothing. That lead cost you nothing.
That's right. Using urgency. Now, second thing is one of the biggest mistakes you guys make, especially in today's market, is many of you would not even have called back a lead like that.
Right.
You might not have ever even captured that lead because you don't have something like 1-800-HOME hotline that captures that phone number. But even if you got that, many of you just assume, oh gosh, it's another buyer lead. I don't need another buyer lead. This house is going to sell itself. Okay. That's a mistake because you're losing out on listing opportunity. The next thing is the third point is, if you do call them back, what do you guys do? What was my first question? What's the exact price? You're going to say $799. Maybe I'm only approved to $750. What am I going to do? Click. Too much for me. Bye-bye.
Yep. Your goal as the elements is everything Julie just said. But really it's what we call Furiously Fast Lead Follow-Up. It's a chapter in our best-selling book that's available at all major booksellers called Harris Rules. It's called Furiously Fast Lead Follow-Up. The book is called Harris Rules. The chapter is a Furiously Fast Lead Follow-Up. Mm-hmm. If you guys are brand new in the business, if you have energy and enthusiasm, almost no skills, but you have energy and enthusiasm and Furiously Fast Lead Follow-Up, you will beat the veteran agents in your marketplace 9 times out of 10. How do I know? Because our first year in the business, we were in our early 20s and we looked like we were, in high school still. We sold over 100 houses. And trust me when I tell you, we had virtually no skill, but we had Furiously Fast Lead Follow-Up and we had energy and enthusiasm. And we would beat on a routine basis, obviously to sell that many houses, we had to be, the entrenched agents. And I promise you guys, what we'd hear back from the sellers, and you will too, is that we wanted to list with you because you called us back right away and because you had energy and enthusiasm.
All the time. Even if they had tried to reach out to their previous agent who took 2 or 3 days to call them back, because you called back with urgency, you already went to the front of the line.
That's right. And so, Julie, is there any other point you want to tag on?
I think we probably are okay to wrap for today, and then this is a series, so
right.
We will continue. I think we probably gave them plenty to digest and chew
so.
on, because, just in today's podcast, we've resolved, hopefully, a lot of the confusion out there, right? So how is it, we have a whole generation of agents that don't really understand how listings generate.
Nope.
Because they haven't really outfitted, there's a podcast called How to Hot Rod Your Real Estate Sign, for example. They haven't realized how powerful that is to be the listing agent and to self-generate. So we talked about that. We talked about the power of Furiously Fast Lead Follow-Up. We talked about the power of conversation outlines, not scripts, just conversation outlines. You'll be okay. And things for them to implement. 1-800-HOME-HOTLINE.com, which comes with that conversation outline. And tomorrow we're going to talk about pre-qualifying further.
So why do you join a coaching program? Because you want to remove chance from your plan. Why do you remove our coaching program? Because you want to learn how to be a listing agent. And that is the bottom line.
And to systematize your process.
Right. You're tired of changing or trying things. You're tired of trying to hack things.
Sampling.
You're tired of sampling. You're tired of playing at real estate. You're tired of getting results here and there. You're tired of basically buying things on hopes and promises and never having it worked out. You're tired. You're smart enough to realize that a lot of other stuff that's being out that you guys are trying to do in your businesses, maybe eventually one day it'll get you a result, but you want results faster. You want to move faster. That's the reason you join our coaching program. That's the reason that you hire somebody who's proven themselves to get you to where you want to be. And this is what we do. We have coaching clients all over the United States, Canada. We have podcast listeners all over the world. We have some coaching clients in different countries. This is what we do. This is our life's work, to help all of you become successful at the art and science of selling real estate. We have, there's nothing more I can really say to those of you who are skeptical about hiring a coach. Some of you aren't ready to hire a coach, and that's true. And I explain that to our staff too. Some people are in that unconscious incompetence phase where they're still sampling, still trying. They're not ready to actually commit, not to us as your coach, but to yourselves as someone who's going to be really successful. You are still looking, your intuition in your ego, frankly, tells you that you can hack it, you can shortcut it, you can somehow figure out a way to become successful in real estate without actually having to do the real work and becoming and making yourself uncomfortable. Until you pass through that phase, you're not going to be ready for us. And that's the bottom line.
Well, and some of them, sadly, have to have an experience where they have their butt handed to them unexpectedly most times, where they thought they had something that was slam dunk, and they didn't use a pre-qualification script, so they didn't know they were competing. They didn't know that one spouse was talking to somebody else, and they lost something. And, you know, I'm sorry that some of you have to go through that because it is painful, but it's also a really good ego adjustment, and it makes you more coachable.
If you are willing to take the lesson, which a lot of people aren't.
Well, sometimes they have to experience that 2 and 3 times.
Right, because they'll have the failure, and what they'll do is they'll basically write the failure off to somehow they got cheated. Like, for example, you went and competed for a listing, the other agent got it from you, and you convince yourself your ego doesn't want you to feel the pain of the loss. And so instead of feeling the pain of the loss, you say, well, that seller listed with the other agent because they knew them, or the other agent told them a higher price or a lower commission. You rationalize the loss opposed to internalizing the loss, taking responsibility for the loss and putting systems in place to ensure that you won't experience the loss again. And some of you, like Julie just said, will have to do that over and over and over and over again. And then you start listening to things like, well, it's okay to only take 50% of the listing appointments you go on. That makes no sense.
Not okay.
That's a lot of losing. I mean,
it's not okay. I mean, when you lose, it is your fault. You have to own that.
That's true. That is what Julie just said is truly the bottom line. When you lose, it is your fault. There is no blaming somebody else. And that's what we teach you in our coaching program, to compete against the listing, the competing agent that overprices, to compete against the agent of the brokerage that cuts their commission, that overpromises and doesn't deliver. We teach you how to beat the people that you're fearful of competing with because you think they have an unfair advantage in the marketplace. We show you how to handle the iBuyers. We show you exactly what to do when you're working against an investor. Guys, this is skills. Master this. Don't waste time. As we move forward, 6 months from now, 60 days from now, 6 minutes from now, you're going to have an experience that's going to reinforce the fact that you should have seriously moved forward and become one of our coaching clients and learn how to be a listing agent. It's going to be a buyer that changes their mind, decides to take themselves out of the market, or a bunch of buyers that decide to do that. It's going to be you driving past a sign or a series of signs of buyers that you sold those houses to, but they listed with somebody else. Don't experience that. That's voluntary. Don't make those costly mistakes. Please take what we're offering you seriously. Text the word success to 47372 or just go over to timandjulieharris.com and click on coaching, join Premier Coaching for around $100 a month. We'll get to our subsequent points on our 7-step listing process tomorrow. If you guys need us for anything, we always appreciate your feedback, your stories, your praise, your criticism. Not so much the criticism.
Special requests for topics.
You can text me directly at 512-758-0206, 512-758-0206. And yes, of course, Julie and I are formally applying for the job of being your EXP sponsor. If you've not chosen your sponsor and you're looking for someone that will be obviously very proactive in your success at EXP, please consider Julie and I. You could text me directly at 512-758-0206, 512-758-0206. We're going to be in Laguna Beach the rest of today. We're leaving tomorrow. We will be visiting with some folks throughout the rest of the day. If you want to visit with us, please message me directly at 512-758-0206 or message us on Instagram. We're staying at Laguna Beach Surf and Sand.
Easy to find right there on PCH.
And we're planning on basically being pool and beachside the rest of the day.
Yep.
You guys have a fantastic day. We'll talk with you on the show tomorrow.